Warning, incoming game over. Warning, incoming game over.
Hello everyone. Welcome back to Game Over Toronto, where I have internet again and the Leafs win again in November, just as we all painfully predicted would happen. The Leafs have started November on fire. That's 3 wins already in their 3 games in November. The Leafs win 5-3 over the Utah Mammoth on this Wednesday night. Welcome in everyone to Game Over Toronto. My name is Zach Payne. I will be your host for this evening's program. Again, apologies that there was no show after a quite exciting game on Monday against the Pittsburgh Penguins, where the Leafs were actually horrible for 40 minutes and then they were unbelievable in the third period and played up to their potential. Unfortunately, with 4 minutes to go in that game against the Penguins, after the Leafs took a 4-3 lead, my internet went out for like my entire community. TELUS decided that it didn't feel like working for like 5 hours after that. So that was fun. So no show, unfortunately, but we're back. So now we get to revel in a win that the Leafs played consistently for the entire game, which is really nice. This was a very complete effort by the Toronto Maple Leafs. I know that Utah scores 3 goals, one of them being at the end when Mermis and Myers kind of just lost focus for a second. And I know that the Leafs were trailing for a decent bit in this game to start off. But regardless, the Leafs play a super clean effort, pretty good defensively overall. They control the possession really well, and they get in on the forecheck, which is something we've been begging them to do for, well, all of October. So we're going to get into it, but before we do, of course, a reminder to hit that like button and subscribe to Game Over Toronto with notifications turned on, as we are live after, well, I can't say every game anymore because I missed one, but we are live after most games this season, as many as we possibly can. So make sure that you have notifications checked so you don't miss any of the streams. And for those of you who are here, feel free to hop in the chat and comment, because that's what the point of this show is. That's the reason we do it live, to talk with you guys. We got Matthew and Luke in the chat so far. Matthew saying no Toronto championship, so I am back, and so are these Leafs. We just needed November, man. Nicky Bobby showing his place in the top 6. Showing his place in the top 6 is correct. Yeah, we'll have to talk about Robbie. He's been a dog. He's hungry, says Luke. You could have had 2 shows for the Pens game, one for the first 2 periods and another for the third. I honestly, that Monday show, if it had happened, would have genuinely been like the first 10-15 minutes would have just me being like, wow, these Leafs suck. And then the Stars decided to play, because the Leafs, it was 3-0. They had like 6 shots through 2 periods. It was horrible. And then Matthews, Nylander, and Nyes were like, hey, what if we just score 3 goals in like 3 minutes? That works out. But that's not what we're here to talk about. We're here to talk about this game against the Mammoth. So if you're new here, the way that I structure these shows is this first segment is going to be dedicated to a game recap. What happened on the ice on Wednesday? Second period, we will get into the big story coming out of this game. Third period, we will get to another story. And fourth period, we will have a Q&A. But again, as you guys know, I kind of run these as an interactive show, and we are going to be chatting throughout, so please leave your thoughts on this game throughout the show, and I'll be checking in with you guys as well. OKO Digital's just saying, I'm just happy the Leafs finally have a contributing to wins, a Finn contributing to wins. I can't pronounce Finnish words, but shout out Matthias Michelli. Damn, I've got a meeting, have to check back later. Luke, you being Australian is ruining the vibe. Anyways, good to see you, buddy, regardless. Good to see you back here again. So, to start this game, a couple of housekeeping things before the game that we have to talk to. Number one, this has been something we've talked about for a long time, but Easton Cowan has been sent down to the Toronto Marlies with Scott Laughton returning from IR. The Leafs needed to open up a roster spot, so Cowan is the one who gets sent down. This was the logical one, as he's the only one who doesn't require waivers. He will go, he'll play with the Marlies. He had a very nice audition with the Leafs, and now he gets to go cook with the Marlies, and if the Leafs need him later in the season, they can call him up, because he proved that he is capable of playing at the NHL level. The lines going into this one were the lines that we saw in the third period against Pittsburgh. So, Nyes, Matthews, Nylander, Robertson, Tavares, McMahon. Very interesting second line there. Joshua Waugh, Michelli, who gets back into the lineup. And then Lorentz, Laughton in his return, and Max Domi. And then before the game, this is something we didn't properly acknowledge when it happened, because it happened in a blowout loss to Columbus. But John Tavares, there was a nice little ceremony for him getting 500 goals. So just want to say again, congratulations to John Tavares for hitting the 500 goal milestone. It is a very difficult feat to accomplish in this league. It's ironic because the Leafs are going to have another guy hit it in like a year when Matthews gets there. Matthews is at like 410 or something. So if Matthews can score 30 to 40 more goals this season, then, well, presumably like 35 to 40 more goals, he'll have a chance to get to 500 next year, which is insane if Matthews gets to 500 before he turns 30. Ridiculous. Regardless, congratulations to John Tavares. Absolutely spectacular. Now, to start this game, similar to the first period against Pittsburgh, which the first period wasn't even that bad against Pittsburgh aside from the goals that went in. This one, similar, very quiet start for both teams. Early on, Max Domi had a nice backhand chance that was caused off a turnover. Coming back the other way, Stenlund had a nice chance that was stopped, shot right into the stomach of Anthony Stolarz. And then in transition, Nylander had an opportunity where he kind of got it in a one-on-one. He cut to the middle, tried to take a shot. I think it was deflected, but it missed the net regardless. There was another play, a turnover at the line. I believe Robertson knocked it back to John Tavares, who just basically was standing at the left circle with time and space, rips one off the crossbar, unfortunately. And then a few moments after that, there was a high sticking penalty on John Tavares where he didn't actually high stick Kyler Yamamoto. He stick lifted him, and Yamamoto's own stick hit him in the face. So they still call it. Bad call by the officials there. Tavares goes to the box. Thankfully, the Leafs don't give up anything on that power play. The penalty kill looked very good tonight. At this point, the Leafs have been controlling the puck very well, but I had made a note that the Leafs were cycling in the offensive zone, but struggling to get to the net. I always try to make that distinction because the Leafs have been pretty good in the past couple of games of cycling, but haven't necessarily done a good job of turning that into chances. They did do that later in the game, but in the first period, they were more so just getting it on the outside and getting the puck, but not doing anything with it. There was a 2-on-1 chance for the Leafs with Bobby McMann and John Tavares, where McMann was trying to pass the whole way, hesitated, and then shot late, and it didn't work out. He gets stopped. In transition, this was a frustrating play. Brendan Carlo is, it's a routine play. Puck is dumped in, and it's stopped in the defensive zone, and Carlos trying to make a D-to-D pass. As he tries to make that pass, Lawson Crouse steals it off of him, swoops in around the net, and just throws it out front, and Carconi is able to bang it in. Bang, bang kind of play. Very good pass by Crouse. Very sloppy play by Carlo on the entry, I guess, by Utah, or I guess the steal by Crouse is more of an apt description. So bad puck awareness from Carlo there. Turns into a goal. I don't blame Stolarz on that one. I do blame him on the one we'll talk about in a little bit. But 1-0 Utah going into the break. To start the second, I had made a note again. The Leafs were controlling the puck well, and they were starting to do a lot more with the puck in the offensive zone. And then on a delayed call, John Tavares on the entry draws a holding call, gets the puck to the front of the net. Nyes chips it over two defenders, and William Nylander just lofts it over the glove of, it was a Vanacek in net tonight, lofts it over the glove. It was a very beautiful play by Nylander. Great patience, great hustle by Nylander. He was working on Peterka on this play, and he just outmuscles Peterka. It is Vanacek in net for this one. So he outmuscles Peterka, gets body position, gets to the front of the net, gets the puck, and then just has a little bit of patience that, most players wouldn't have to just hold off for a second, draw Vanacek in, and float it over the glove. Beautiful goal by William Nylander. He cannot stop. Him and Nyes cannot stop getting points, and the Leafs tied the game. A couple of moments later, the top line was out there cycling again, but it was the end of a shift, so the top line wingers go off. The third line wingers of Matias Maccelli and Dakota Joshua come onto the ice, but Austin Matthews stays. Maccelli gets the puck in the corner. He finds Austin Matthews, who rips a one-timer home. He is got 3 goals in 3 games now, and Matias Maccelli sets him up an assist against his former team, and we'll talk about him in a little bit as well. Gives the Leafs a lead. A couple moments after that, there was a 2-on-1 where Stolarz had to make a nice glove save. Granted, the shooter did whiff on the play, so kind of partial credit for that. And then an altercation after the play, Scott Lawton just beams a guy in the head for some reason, takes a unnecessary roughing penalty. Hayton, after that penalty, there's a play where Barrett Hayton ripping through the neutral zone with a ton of speed. Brandon Carlo makes an incredible play to dive, swat the puck, and they call it tripping because if you don't know, they changed the rule. If this was like 10 years ago, it was just as long as you hit the puck first, there's no penalty, but they changed that rule. So even though he did play the puck first, he did still trip Hayton, so it is a penalty. Very curiously on this play, the ref that was right there, like 2 feet away, did not call a penalty on this play. The ref that was like 120 feet away at center ice did call it. Very odd from the officials there. And I hate that rule change petition to bring back the old ways where if you hit the puck first, because that just looked so cool from Ben and Carlo. That is a penalty I will totally excuse. And I did want to make this note that the Leafs, after this, I was curious. I was like, man, the Leafs really struggle to draw penalties, and it seems like they're taking more than they've been getting. And that turned out that it is, in fact, true. The Leafs are 30th in the league in drawn penalties this year, 20th in penalties taken this year. So they are still in the bottom half of the league in terms of like they take fewer penalties than most teams, but they do have a -7 penalty differential after this game where they did get 1 power play. So just worth noting that the Leafs have not been getting as many calls as they are taking so far this season. But going into the third period, Utah did take a penalty, and the Leafs would naturally do absolutely nothing with it. Although, hold on. Back up, because I missed something. There was a goal that we actually have to talk about. On a routine dump-in play, Jake McCabe tries to send a pass to Austin Matthews. He misses Matthews with the pass. It was out of Austin's reach. Puck goes back to the point, and Mikhail Sergachev takes a shot, and it goes in. And when I was first watching this live, I was like, oh, that just somehow got through traffic. No, it just beat Stolar's 5-hole clean from distance. And it wasn't a particularly good shot. I think they said on the broadcast it was 78 miles an hour. That was a yucky goal. That was a yucky goal for Stolars to allow. Can't have it. Utah ties the game 2-2. And then at the end of the second period, they do take a penalty that the Leafs would do nothing on. That power play was mostly an ineffective power play. Shortly after the power play ended, Robertson did have a very good chance in front, unable to bury. Very nice save there. And then, again, on a dump-in, Bobby McMahon, he goes into the corner, wins a battle, shovels it out in front, gets past a couple of Utah defenders, and John Tavares on the backhander just rips it top shelf. Another goal beating Vanacek upstairs, and another goal that it comes off the back of a forecheck leading to a cycle chance. The Leafs fantastic on the cycle and on the forecheck in this one. And then a couple of moments after that, again, the Leafs on the forecheck again. Matias Maccelli gets the puck, sends it back behind the net to Dakota Joshua, who centers it then to Maccelli, and Maccelli rips one against his former team. A goal and an assist for Matias Maccelli against his old squad. Maccelli, despite the scratch last game, he is now on pace for 44 points this season, and this is noteworthy for a couple reasons. One, depth scoring, always good to kind of monitor, and Maccelli's played better than his box score stats would indicate. He's done a great job of setting his teammates up so far this season, and he's been a bit snake-bitten. Good to see him get on the board a couple of times. Two, I bring that up because, remember, if Maccelli gets over 50, or I think it is 51 points is the threshold, and the Leafs make the playoffs, the third round pick they sent to Utah will get upgraded to a second, so we do have to keep track of Maccelli's point totals throughout this season. But that gave the Leafs a 4-2 lead, and then with the empty netter, Jake McCabe makes a fantastic play in the corner, basically single-handedly taking the puck, stopping the cycle and forecheck, backhands it up to William Nylander, who gives it to Matt Nyes, who buries the empty netter. Again, Nylander and Nyes cannot stop scoring points. Nylander is now up to 20 points in 11 games with a couple of games that he's missed, I believe. Let me confirm that. Is it 11 or 12 games? 11 games. Nylander has 20 points in 11 games. Nylander, Tavares, and Nyes all lead the league. They are the top 3 league leaders in even strength points this season. The power play has not been it so far this year, but the Leafs stars are performing, and it's hilarious that none of those top 3 are Austin Matthews. But Matthews, he's starting to heat up a little bit. He has looked very good the last couple of games, a lot more akin to the 2023 season compared to last year. So I'll give Matthews a bit of grace. His point total should start to climb a little bit in November as well, but Nylander has just been a man possessed. He's on pace. Actually, what is his pace? So he missed The Leafs have now played 14 games, so he's going to play 79 if he stays healthy for the rest of them. And he is on pace for 143 points in 79 games. Obviously, he's not going to get that, but Nylander has just been an unleashed animal so far this season. And then with the Leafs up 5-2 with about a minute left, Myers and Mermis / Michelli get caught napping. Dylan Guenther slips in behind the defense, buries a breakaway goal 5-hole in Stolarz. I didn't love it from Stolarz, but it's a breakaway, so I'll give him at least a partial pass on that one. The Leafs just fell asleep up 3. Whatever, who can blame them? The Leafs shut it down, and that gets us to our final score of 5-3. Pyro checking in saying, yo, it's good to see you again. It was a good game to watch. Matthews heating up a little. Yes, he is. And that it's not just that Matthews is heating up. It's that he's scoring the way you want him to score, that you expect him to score. Matthews on pace for like 46 goals now this season. I expect him to be in that 45 to 50 range. So we'll see. Matthews has Nicky Bobby super energy. I've noticed Nicky Bobby on the ice with a few different lines. So yeah, Robertson was playing with Tavares, and man, Robertson's been unreal in a top 6 role. He looks so much more comfortable in this role. So I'm willing to keep this train going. Robertson has been sick in the past couple of games, the past week or so. Even though like stylistically, Robertson and Matthews doesn't make sense stylistically, but it worked for some reason. It was just working. And then now Nylander's up there and that line's playing unbelievable, so you let them cook. I mean, heck, I'm sure even in soccer, you can do that if you get the ball first. No way we should have ice hockey being more weak on a play than soccer. Oh yeah, with the tripping with Carlo. Yeah, man. The ref, the closer ref thought he fell over a fallen player and the other ref was just wrong. It is what it is, man. Felt like I wanted to see more from Stoli tonight. Yeah, well, we've said that a couple of times this season. Joseph Wool cannot get back soon enough, mainly because Stolarz just cannot be playing this much. He's clearly tired and is not used to playing a full starter's workload. So when Wool comes back and they can alternate, I think that Stolarz will settle into a better role. 2 bad 5-hole goals. The first one was god-awful. The second one, Second one's just kind of normal bad. Bye-bye second round pick for 51 points from Michelli in a finals appearance. God, I hope that we get a Leafs deep playoff run. That would be so... Like, obviously, I would be heartbroken if the Leafs did what the Jays did and get to the Cup finals and lose in 7. But at the same time, it beats losing in 7 in the second round or the first round. So, Nylander 110 to 120 points might be a possible shot, though. What's his previous high? 102. His previous high is 98. For Nylander. He's not scored 100 points in a season yet, which is surprising somewhat. He should get there this year. Barring injury, Nylander should absolutely get to 100 plus this year. 110, I don't think has anyone in this Leafs era got to 110. Matthews is the only one who would, well, let me rephrase. Has Matthews gotten to 110 before? I know he's not going to this year, but Matthews is the one who's had the highest point totals in his career on the Leafs. His highest was 107. So yeah, no Leaf has even gotten to 110. We've had Matthews get to 100 twice. Marner got to it once. And now Nylander's on pace for it. He should get there. We have not had that many 100-point seasons, though, with the Leafs. So Marner did get it last year. He got 102 last year. And then Marner had and Nylander's come close. He had the 98-point season. But... yeah, it's kind of surprising. All right, with that being said, I'm going to turn us over to our second segment. As I do, just a reminder to hit that like button and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. Make sure you come hang out in the chat as well, and come check out our merch, like the hoodie that I am wearing. You can go check it out at thegameovernetwork.com. We got hoodies, shirts, hats, mugs, anything that you can think of. We've got it, and we've got it available for every single Canadian market. So go check it out, thegameovernetwork.com. Now in this second segment, we have to talk about the obvious, and it is that all of us collectively watching this stream, this team, all of us fans were so unequivocally right about this team, and the Leafs remain the most predictable team in the National Hockey League. And what I mean by that, how many times did we say in October, just wait for November, the Leafs will turn it around. Wait for November, the Leafs will turn it around. I said it during I think it was one of the Buffalo games. I was like, the turnaround is coming, and then they played a horrible game against Columbus, and my confidence was shaken a bit. But now we're in November. You had Philly on Saturday. That was the Leafs' most complete game of the season. You had Pittsburgh on Monday. Yeah, that started rocky, but the third period was the best individual period the team has played all season. And now you have this game against Utah. That was once again, aside from the Philly game, the most complete game the Leafs have played all season. So you have your two best games of the season in the past three, and you have the best individual period you've played in one of the last three. The Leafs are now playing their best hockey of the season so far as we start November, as we said they would, as we all predicted. I don't know how to quantify how bad the Leafs are in October, but we are now establishing a new rule. All right, this is a fan base wide legislation, we'll call it. We are no longer allowed to overreact to October hockey because now we have even more proof of concept that the Leafs are better than what they show in October. They are a good hockey team, and they just didn't feel like playing in October. And I do think there is something to be said about the Leafs not caring about training camp, not trying in training camp, not getting properly ready for the start of the season. You see it with Matthews and Nylander, how they kind of just half-ass training camp, and then they start the season slow. Nylander and Matthews were racking up points in the first couple of games of the season, but they weren't, like, Nylander had like 3 empty net points in the first couple of games, or 3 or 4 points. Like, they were racking up points, but they weren't looking good, and it was very clear that this team just was getting into game shape. And I actually want to borrow something from NFL. For those of you who are not aware, you can see I'm wearing a Detroit hat. I've got Detroit Lions jerseys on the wall. I'm a big football fan, right? And there was a speech a couple of years ago that head coach of the Detroit Lions, Dan Campbell, gave in training camp for the Detroit Lions. And he pulled his team aside and he started yelling at them about how they are not playing well enough. And he said something that was very interesting to me. And he said something along the lines of, if you're going to keep performing like this, we're going to start the season terribly, and then we'll pick it up in, November, December, once we've had enough reps to get up to game shape. That's not how this has to work. You have to be on it from the jump. Now, obviously, that applies a lot more in the NFL when there's less games compared to hockey, but the same logic applies. The Leafs clearly did not take training camp seriously. They never do. They just want to get through it without injuries. And that is totally fair. If you're Austin Matthews, I would also want to get through training camp without injuries, given the problems he's had in recent years. If you're William Nylander, I get that you probably are just kind of like this 10th level above everything kind of person. And you're like, who cares? I'll just pick it up when the games are happening. And now we get to the season. They suck in October. And now we're into November, and now they've had enough reps to where they're in game shape and they can afford to try consistently throughout the course of a game. So, man, this team, they are eternally frustrating in October, and I get it. I'm not going to fall for it again. I'm going to raise my hand. I'm not falling for it again. Even though I predicted this would happen, and this is not just a me thing. We predicted collectively this would happen. Like, you guys get just as much credit as I do. We predicted the Leafs would look better in November. But the reason why I think is starting to become a little clear, because saying the Leafs aren't trying or don't care, don't care, you can maybe apply, but not trying. It's not that the Leafs weren't trying. They looked horrible, and they were constantly chasing the play. They just were not playing crisp hockey. There were so many sloppy turnovers and mistakes, defensive errors that a Craig Berube coach team should not be making, considering how much Berube prides his team on defense and taking away the middle of the ice. Now we're seeing the Leafs, they've had the reps, now they're playing cleaner hockey. They're getting after it on the forecheck. There was, again, 4 goals off of cycle chances, 0 rush goals tonight. And that was what the Leafs were doing in October, is only scoring off the rush and not getting enough cycle chances, not getting after it on the forecheck. Now it's the opposite. Now we're back to what the Leafs are supposed to be, which is a cycle first team. They'll obviously still get their rush chances because they're talented, and William Nylander is on this team. He's going to get his breakaways. I'm not worried about that. But the Leafs, they are finally up to a point where now in November, we can properly start to judge this team and be like, okay, these are their strengths, these are their weaknesses. And so this month of November and going forward, we're going to have the ability and the tools to more effectively evaluate this team. And for that, I'm very excited. Plus, Joseph Wool will be back very soon. So I'm looking forward to that as well. There was a lot of bad lines and line switching in October. Yeah, and that's another thing is Berube was horrible in October. Scott Laughton getting hurt completely messed up his plan for the season. And when your 4C is the linchpin of your entire forward group, something is wrong there. And it's not just that, it completely messed up his plan for the lines, and that was unacceptable as well. Smashing up Boston might be absolutely amazing. Yeah, the Leafs do have 2 games against Boston in the next week, so that's going to be very fun to watch. We got, I think the one in Saturday, is that one at home, and then the one on Tuesday is in Boston, or is that the other way around? Let me find out. They've got, yeah, so their next game is Saturday versus Boston, then they've got Sunday versus Carolina, and then Tuesday at Boston. So 2 games against Boston in the next couple of days. Those will be fun. I'm looking forward to those ones. Everyone shut up in October, yeah. So far, the lines are closer to how they should be, so November is looking better. And I do think I don't know if Nylander on the top line with Matthews is going to stick all season. I think that it's important to note that they can go to this. The Leafs need another top 6 winger at some point, because I don't think Bobby McMahon and Nick Robertson can work in the top 6. I don't know if they'll consistently work there together, because McMahon is so streaky. And Robertson, I want to see Robertson against some better teams that have better defense cores. I want to see what that looks like. We'll see. I'm skeptical of the fit with the second line and if they can be effective enough. But we'll see. I'm willing to be convinced. I'll put it that way. I do think that the Leafs might need another top 6 winger, though. Whoa, that was a lot of yapping. Excuse me. Nicky Bobby goal versus Boston. That'd be great, man. I think Nylander's contract is going to start looking damn good now with his trajectory. I think it was always going to look good. Honestly, the thing with contracts in the NHL, over the next couple of years, any long-term contract is inevitably going to look good. It doesn't matter if you, Kaprizov just signed an 8-year, $17.5 million deal or whatever it was. In 8 years, that contract is going to look perfectly fine. Granted, it looks horrible right now because McDavid just signed for 12.5. But if the Oilers ever won the Cup and McDavid was then able to cash in for $20 million, that deal will look fine. Nylander at 11.5 is going to look it looks good now. Compared to, you have Kaprizov signing for 17. All these guys are going to start signing for 13, 14. Nylander's contract is going to look sick if he's a 100-point player, 90, 100-point player, whatever. And in 8 years, we're going to be like, yeah, you had one of the best Leafs of all time. So who cares about the number? Any long-term deal, the Nyes contract, that's going to look so sweet. It already kind of does. He's making what's Nyes making? 7.5, 7.6 or something like that. And Nyes is on pace for, he's on pace for 100 points right now. If Nyes can become a 70 or 80 point player, that deal is going to look sweet. Tavares is scoring at a 90 point pace and he's making 4.3. That looks unbelievable. Even Matthews, Matthews is making 13.4 or whatever it is. That deal's going to be fine. Matthews, he's only got a couple more years under contract, and then he'll get extended for 16 or 17 million, but the cap's going to be going up so much that who cares? As long as you keep him, that's all that matters. Leafs playing Cup chase in October. For the fans, though, they were 7-2. They're 7-2-1 at home so far, even in October. Yeah, the Leafs have been mostly good at home. They were really bad on the road. They haven't played on the road a ton, to be fair. But they started 0-3 on the road, which was unacceptable. Just like the Edmonton game where when they played the Jays game during the hockey game, Leafs were bad to focus on the Jays in October. Yeah, it helped the Leafs that when the Leafs looked back or looked bad, the Jays were going on their run, so no one really cared. So now that the Jays are done and the World Series is over and people are looking at the Leafs again, at least the Leafs are playing good again so that we can not have any big panic. A friend of mine who's a Leafs fan reckoned the Leafs should maybe just give up trying to get that offensive D-man because they've been trying for a long time. What do you reckon with all the Anderson rumors? Well, first of all, the Flames will never trade with the Leafs because the Flames, like Murray Edwards, who runs the Flames, has a grudge against Brad Treliving for leaving. So until proven otherwise, the Leafs and Flames are never going to make a deal. Second of all, Morgan Rielly is an offensive D-man. Ekman Larsson is an offensive D-man. They probably do need another puck mover, but it depends on how McCabe plays, honestly. They have the personnel. They just don't have the... We'll see. I think Rielly is perfectly fine as like that puck-moving defenseman. Ekman Larsson has more of a shot threat. I wouldn't mind looking for another puck mover on the back end, but it wouldn't be a significant move, I don't think. And it would have to be a lefty because we have too many righties all of a sudden. I remember when Nylander signed the contract, a lot of balking, but that might be the Toronto effect. Well, we had just come off a summer where we were hoping to get Nylander for like 8.5, 9 mil on an 8-year deal, and then he started that season on fire, kind of like he's doing now, but it wasn't quite as egregious as what he's doing now. But he was he had a crazy point streak to start that year, and they were like, okay, let's just get this done, whatever the price. And that was when the cap hadn't yet started going up, right? So it seemed a lot worse at the time in retrospect, and like looking at it now, yeah, that deal's perfectly fine. The power play still looks terrible. Yeah, we can talk about that if you want. Knies was the Marner replacement all along. We don't need to replace... whatever. Matthews is just getting back to looking like a 13.25. That's what it was. $1 million player. Yeah, he's starting to get the goal scoring is all I care about. As long as because Matthews is so good defensively too. I don't love him being the first over the boards on the penalty kill, but when Matthews is playing the way he was defensively tonight, winning a ton of faceoffs, being involved in a ton of defensive plays, killing a bunch of plays himself, and then ripping shot, like scoring like that at the other end, yeah, I'll pay 13 for that. And honestly, I gained such an appreciation for Matthews, even when he was bad, quote unquote, during the Four Nations last year, because cheering for Canada, obviously, and playing against Matthews, the amount of times I would be like, damn it, Matthews, because he just kept getting his stick on everything. It was so frustrating to play against. And now I kind of view Matthews through a different lens. When the Olympics happen this year, and I'll bring this up again for the Olympics, but that'll be my challenge to you guys, is when you're cheering for Canada and cheering against Matthews, pay attention to how much he frustrates you when you play against him, because he's actually really good at that. I think Myers has been a decent replacement for Tanev. Well, replacement, no, but stopgap, well, not even stopgap, because they just moved OEL up. The Leafs are getting by without Tanev, and they will get by. Hopefully he's okay. Don't play again in 2025 for all I care. Just get healthy. Like, we need Tanev for the spring, not for November. We'll be all right. Fingers crossed, yeah, absolutely. Who do you think would be a good top 6 winger for Toronto? Tuck, maybe. Tuck would be unreal. I don't think the Leafs have the assets to do that, though. I don't think Buffalo would. That would be unbelievable, though. Tuck would make so much sense in terms of, like, a player fit. But the Leafs don't have an ability to go trade for a player like that. Unless they're trading Danford and a 2020... What first do we even have? Do we have a 28 first? It'd be like a 2028 first or something that they'd have to add to that, plus Danford. So... I'd be willing to make a move like that, but yeah, we'll see. That we'll talk about trade deadline stuff later in the season, but that is probably the position they need. Okay. With that being said, I'm going to turn this over to our third segment now. Just a reminder again to hit that like button and subscribe. And another reminder, if you want to support the Game Over Network, you can go follow the Game Over Network on social media, wherever, Instagram, Bluesky, Twitter, you name it, the Game Over Network. Go check them out, and go check out all the other Game Over channels as well. We got Game Over Montreal that's been running. We got Game Over Calgary that's been running. Game Over Ottawa, I think, has been doing some intermittent shows at various points. Go check out all those. We also do have, I don't know, I can't announce this yet, but I will say we do have some fun, I guess, games or fun interactive things that might be a part of the show soon. So be on the lookout for that. We're working on something behind the scenes that'll give us some ability to do some more interactive shows. Whether or not that's a part of the regular Game Over or a different show, we'll see. But we're going to just keep an eye out on the Game Over Network main channel. Keep an eye out on that in the near future because we got something cooking. Sorry, Murmus, but you're no Benny. Yeah, I should have mentioned Simone Benoit out of this game with an injury or an illness. Murmus, he was fine. He's a guy. He's an 8th defenseman. He's a guy. Benoit, I get frustrated by in the regular season because he's kind of bad, but he tries hard and he hits, which is honestly all. Which is honestly all you can ask for. 28 first overall. Yeah. If the Leafs want to move that pick, then yeah. What is Game Over? This is Game Over. You are watching Game Over. All right, this third segment, we are going to talk about... let's talk about the special. Actually, I do want to mention, just quickly, I forgot to mention this during the game. The Leafs in this game allowed 4 high-danger chances at 5-on-5 all game. The entire game, 4 high-danger chances at 5-on-5 and 5 total with Utah's 3 power plays. 5 total. The Leafs were unbelievable at shutting down Utah in this game. And it honestly makes Stolarz look so much worse, but oh boy, the Leafs were real good defensively in this game. Okay, what I want to talk about, I just closed that tab. I need that tab back, damn it. Hold on. I want to bring up the stats. I want to bring up advanced stats. We're gonna get into the real nerd stuff here, okay? We are going to look at power play rates this season for the entire league, and we're going to compare the Leafs. Let's play a game, actually, because I actually don't know the answer to this. We are going to look at... Let's start with... Oh, my Lord. Okay, let's start with goals for per 60. Now, for those of you who don't know, per 60 rates just means if you were in these situations for 60 minutes, which is the average length, a normal length for a hockey game, how many of whatever stat you would accumulate. In this case, we are going to start with goals for per 60. Now, this is on the power play, so these are going to be skewed. The leader in this category is Edmonton, obviously, and they score 14 goals per 60 minutes of power play time. Okay? That is the number one. Edmonton is at 14. An average team is like St. Louis, Vancouver. They're scoring half that. They're scoring 7.5 goals per 60 minutes on the power play. The Leafs, you might ask, well, where are they? They are 30th at 4.16. 4.16 goals per 60. And they're also second worst. They're also 31st in terms of like goals against per 60. They allow the second most, I guess is the way I should frame that, at 2.08. So not only are the Leafs horrible compared to the league at scoring on the power play, they're also really bad at getting scored on the power play. Now, okay, that's goals for. That is the actual goals being scored. What about the process? What does their process look like? Now, I need... navigating this chart is going to take me a second. I need shot attempts. Now, this is an area the Leafs are actually pretty good in. Shot attempts per 60 minutes. The Leafs are shooting... This is... Again, these numbers are going to sound really big. But they're 7th with 112 shot attempts per 60. 7th. Far cry from the actual goals going in. Okay, so they're shooting a lot on the power play, but they're not scoring. Well, are the shot attempts that they're taking, are they from good areas? Are they from dangerous areas? Well, let me answer that for you. High danger chances for per 60. The Leafs are pretty good. Once again, they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11th. Are they elite? No, but they are generating a above average amount of high danger chances on the power play. Okay, well, what about expected goals? Same thing. The Leafs are pretty average in terms of the expected goals that they're generating. The kicker is shooting percentage. They are once again down at 30th, shooting just 8% on the power play, which, again, average is like 13, 14. The highest is, oh my Lord, Montreal. Montreal's shooting 28% on the power play right now. Good Lord. Yeah, they are due for some regression. What's Montreal's power play percentage? This could go into a whole different tangent. Or don't let the Habs fans find this. Don't let no one tell Game Over Montreal about this. What's Montreal's power play percentage? Their power play's clicking at 30.8%. Yeah. Regression. Regression is coming. Anyways, so the point is, the Leafs power play is in this very bizarre spot where they are not scoring. That is very clear. They are not good on the power play. They also are not shooting well on the power play, but they are not passing the eye test. Like Matthew, I'm sure when you say the power play still looks terrible, I assume you mean like to your eyes, as in when you watch the game, you are saying they look terrible. And I agree. They don't look good on the power play so far this season. Yet the advanced stats are telling us that they're actually generating perfectly normal numbers on the power play. So what gives? This is where analytics and the eye test kind of have this little fight. I think the Leafs are generating perfectly fine amounts of chances on the power play, but again, the reason they're not converting is they don't operate fast enough. They got to go faster, faster, faster. They take too long to make decisions. They take too long to make passes, to take shots. Their entries are still god awful and I hate them. But the Leafs, I don't really have anything to back this up. So this is a trust me bro moment. I think the Leafs power play will be fine. It's going to take a little bit. But remember, they were also awful in October last year, and then they figured it out in November and December. So when the Leafs actually draw penalties, because they're bad at doing that as well, I think the Leafs are going to do better in October. I think they can get their power play up to middle of the pack in November, and then we'll start to build on it in towards the end of the year and the start of the new year. I think the Leafs power play is going to be fine, but again, that's kind of just a trust me bro, because I don't have data to quantify the Leafs being slow to make decisions. I just have my eyeballs, and I don't have any reason for you to be like, well, the Leafs are just going to simply convert on a higher percentage of these chances that they generate. They should, in theory, but it's kind of a just trust the process moment. I think they will be fine, but they do just have to operate quicker and do a better job at making chaos, but with the renewed sense of a forecheck and cycling the puck and doing better at that. Once they start to convert that to direct action on the power play, I think the goals will come. It's just going to take a minute because it's a mental thing. With that being said, I'm going to turn us over to our fourth and final segment. This is the part of the show where we invite your questions. So if you have any questions, Leafs or hockey related, actually it doesn't even have to be hockey related. If you have questions, this is the part of the show where we invite those questions. So please drop a comment in the chat whether or not you have any. It doesn't have to be a question. Just, you know what? Just say something in the chat. Sure, that's what we're going to say. As always, a reminder to hit like and subscribe to Game Over Toronto. And while you guys do that, I'm going to have a sip of my water, and I'm going to check what was said after the game by Berube and whatnot. All right. Hey, Michelli got the belt. That's nice to see. Matias Michelli, great team win. Personally, it felt even better doing it against my old team and getting that game winner too. Feels really... Oh, yeah, I guess it was the game winner. Austin Matthews on Matias Michelli. We were giving it to him before the game, so you knew he was going to be ready to go for this one. He was all over it tonight. Big goal for us. I'm sure that one feels good against his old team. A lot of people talking about Tavares. Oh yeah, I should have mentioned Stolarz went for a goalie goal and it was a horrible attempt, and Berube said, if I don't mind it up 2 goals, but you got to raise the puck higher than that. Austin Matthews' first 3-game goal streak coincides with the Leafs' first 3-game win streak. Berube said more energy and life to him. Feels like he's got a lot more jump to his game. Crazy that your $13 million player needed to be reminded that he has to try, but whatever. Austin, oh, that's actually funny. So the Leafs were wearing these Tavares 500 shirts, and Matthews taped over it because Tavares scored, and he taped a 1 over it to be like 501. That's funny. Devil Monkey Mike, diehard Leafs fan here, living in Utah. Grateful for the community here. Grateful for you, my man. Hold on, question for you. How does someone living in Utah become a Leafs fan? That's my question for you. How did that happen? That seems like a very unique. And how many is there a Leafs community in Utah, or are you kind of a lone wolf out there? That seems like seems a little unique to you. Okay. Montreal needs speed, no speed on the power play. They need to stop trying to go top cheese, do more shots mid to low on the middle for rebounds, far too many higher wide for loss of zone. On the power play, I generally agree with that. Especially the shots from the point need to be lower. I don't mind if Matthews or Nylander are trying to rip it top shelf because they're elite shooters. But when Riley or OEL or whoever, or if they're going for a rebound, then yeah. But I think the Leafs need to do more to get Nyes involved on the power play. And they could do more. Honestly, what I would love to see is I want to see plays where Matthews winds up the one-timer and then does a shot pass to Tavares in the bumper for a deflection. That's what I want to see. I just want to see more creativity. The Leafs, they're too talented to not try things that are beyond just cycle to the outside. Oh, we're going to shoot now. Maybe that's another thing. More creativity. I thought the Leafs looked a little blunt on the power play. It doesn't generate that much fear, and that's something that stats don't really capture for me. That's a great way to encapsulate it. The Leafs generate chances, technically speaking, like on a spreadsheet, they do rack up those chances. But how many of those do you actually think they're going to score on? That's a great distinction. Would you take out Domi for Yarncroke? I like Domi tonight. I like Domi on the fourth line so far, which I would hope I do because, man, what a demotion for him. But no, I would rotate Yarncroke in. I don't think Lorentz needs to be an everyday player. I think Lorentz, Yarncroke, and Blais can all just kind of rotate in on that fourth line. And then if an injury happens, obviously. How good was the early 2000s Leafs teams? I remember noticing that they got fairly close to the Cup final. What past Leaf eras are most liked by the fans? So I can't speak on how good they were, aside from telling you how many games they won, because I was a baby. I was too young for those teams. However, what I can tell you is that those are some of the most liked teams, those early 2000s teams, because they were not the most talented teams, but they were very blue collar, and they really Leaf fans love a blue collar team. That's why guys like Darcy Tucker, Ty Domi, all those guys stand out from that era because is Darcy Tucker the best player of all time? No, but he was a lunatic on the ice, and so Leafs fans really latched on to the grit and tenacity of those teams. And obviously they did very good, and they beat some much more talented Ottawa teams back then. That's when the Battle of Ontario was so one-sided because the Leafs just had Ottawa's number, and they had a couple of decent runs. Obviously going back to the 90s, the Gilmore days, the Leafs came very close. They were a missed high-sticking call against Gretzky away from possibly going to the Cup Finals, but I digress. Okeos asking, is Austin's shot just being dialed in, or has his approach changed from October to now? Both. I think it's fair that it's a little column A, a little bit column B. Matthews definitely has more jump in his game. Not that, again, I feel like he's just, I don't want to say just trying harder, but it feels like he's a lot more determined to attack in the offensive zone. I think he was way too passive in October. He was going through the motions a bit too much, and he's been a lot more eager to get into shooting positions to start November. And his shot also, as he's been shooting more and more, he's been getting himself into these positions to score more. So his shot is obviously Matthews in October was shooting a lot from the outside, and they weren't very dangerous because they were too far outside. Now he's getting to those dangerous areas more. He's the best mid-range shooter in the league is regressing back to being the best mid-range shooter in the league. I don't know how to quantify that. He is just, I don't know, he's just shooting better. Okay, Mike, in 2004, I wanted a team to cheer for. Conan O'Brien did a remote with the team, and I fell in love. Suffered ever since, and it was very lonely. I am very grateful to be able to watch the Leafs once a season. Yeah, that's amazing that you now get to watch the Leafs in person. Like, as someone, like, I live in Calgary, and so I only get to see the Leafs once a year in person as well. It's special, man. It's special. And obviously, there's probably more Leaf fans in Calgary than there are in Utah, but the point still stands. It's always nice to see them in person. So, yeah, that's awesome, man. That's awesome that so longtime fan, fairly long time fan, and great to have you here, as I said. Shoot low, get nice, fighting, collapse Nylander and Matthews on the power play. Yeah, and this is this is verbiage that we use a lot for a 5-on-3, but in general, you have your power play. The goal should be you get the zone and you have your setup, right? The Leafs have their umbrella setup, Nyes at the net, Tavares in the slot, Matthews and Nylander on the flanks, defenseman at the top, whoever it may be. And the goal is you pass it around the outside, and as you pass through the middle, sometimes you just shrink that formation and get a little bit like closer to the net every time, and then you set up a one-timer and then chaos around the net. And then if it doesn't work and they clear it to the corner, okay, you reset, and then you start passing and you shrink the formation, and get your chances. Should be the goal, but oh yeah, that's a good question for you from Pyro there, Mike. Who was the most popular team in Utah before the Mammoth got there? Is there a third and fourth line, or the bottom line's just mixed with time on ice? I don't know what the time on ice is. Let me check that for you. But in my opinion, this feels like a more traditional third and fourth line. Although I'm gonna check what the distribution was in this game. Buck score. So Scott Lawton played 10 minutes, Lawrence 11 minutes, Domi 10 minutes. Machelli, Joshua, well, Machelli was at 12 minutes. And then Waugh was at 15, Joshua was at 14, but they also had penalty kill time. So third line was about 12 minutes, and then fourth line was about 10, 11 minutes. So a little bit of discrepancy there. Matthews led the way with 20 minutes tonight. So yeah, you poor people who live so far from you. See, Luke's being tongue-in-cheek because he's an Aussie. Luke, you gotta eventually get to Canada and watch a Leafs game, because I don't think they're gonna come out there. Yeah, I guess we should stop complaining, though. We get to actually watch them. Do you catch a lot of heat for being a Leafs fan in Calgary? I live an ocean away from my... Oh, Pyro, are you international too? What's with all the international fans in here? In Calgary, I did one like growing up, because I became a Leafs fan kind of tongue in cheek because everyone around me hated them, and I was that guy. I was that guy that was like, oh, you hate these guys? I'm going to be the hipster that cheers for them. Of course, I was so young that I didn't realize that the Leafs were the most popular team, because in my circle, they were the most hated. So I thought I was doing something cool. And then I grew up and was like, oh, the Leafs are the big bad. Oops. But we're here now, so no going back. Damn, Pyro, yeah, you're in the UK. That's crazy. Yeah. Love that we got the international people in here. NHL in the UK is niche. I believe it, man. I fully believe it. I feel like obviously you have your football / soccer for us North Americans here, but I feel like what's the second most popular sport in the UK? Would it be like... I know the NFL's been having games over there, but what's the second most popular? Rugby? I don't even know. Pyro, you're going to have to answer that for me. What's the second most popular sport behind football / soccer? Colorado for the longest time here in Utah. Our ECHL team feeds into them. Oh, that's a good connection. I love how the Mammoth feels like that team you had in NHL 21 that you forgot about. Yeah, they feel like an old expansion team that someone made. If I used my NFL team is San Francisco. Oh, Matthew, we're going to... I hate the Niners, and I only hate the Niners because of the NFC Championship game from a few years ago. Not just Leafs game, try the Poutine. I went to Canada last year, actually. Fell in love with the place. I saw 2 games. Wish I could go back every year. That's fair. You know what? I feel like I remember you telling the chat that last year. My bad. But glad that you were able to see a couple of games. So how did your relationship with the Leafs evolve from there on? So I went through phases with the Leafs where I was really into the team because when I played hockey, I was a goalie. And growing up, I was a big Jonathan Quick fan and I was a big James Reimer fan. And that's why I became a Leafs fan, is because of James Reimer. And I was watching through 2012, 2013, and then watching the 2013 series versus Boston, and only sort of paying attention, but more so being a James Reimer fan than a Leafs fan. Obviously that went horrible. And then the Leafs acquired Bernier and I was really mad. And eventually they traded Reimer, and then they were really horrible for a couple of years. So I wasn't nearly as diehard. And then they drafted Matthews and I was back in. I vividly remember I was half watching Matthews' debut game. Because this, again, I was only, how old would I have been? 2016. I would have been 14. So I was half watching that game while I was playing video games or something. And I was like, oh, Matthews has two. Oh, Matthews has three. Matthews has all 4 goals. I was like, I'm back in. And so I loosely followed that Matthews rookie year team. And then ever since then, I've been diehard, fully diehard. And that's been the last several years of my life. Obviously, I've also become a super diehard NFL fan in that time. And yeah, just diehard sports fan instead of just being a teenage delinquent. Do you play Primo versus Boston? No. I'll play Primo versus Carolina if I have to. I'd play Hildeby versus Carolina, to be honest. But I would save the backup game for Carolina, because Carolina doesn't have quite as elite of shooters. They are a great team, but they will just shoot from everywhere. So you can kind of get away with having a worse goalie when they just shoot from everywhere. Plus, I'm scared of Stolarz' rebound control against Carolina. Second most popular, yeah, Luke, I was going to ask cricket, but I wasn't sure. Rugby, I'd say. Yeah, that's fair. That was kind of my hunch, but I wasn't sure. Rugby's awesome. Never got into the teams, but loved playing it in high school. Rugby's just one of those games, man, where it's because growing up, in North America, football is American football is obviously a big thing, but rugby was always the branch off for the extra psychos who were hey, all that hitting, what if we just simply don't have pads? And so for North American kids, rugby was always kind of for the people who saw football and were what if it was more violent? And they would go play that, and we always looked at those people as a little bit crazy, but it does look really awesome. I'm not gonna lie. It would be, I'm terrifying for someone like me who's taller and lankier. I would have got a lot of bruises if I played that, but I guess in hockey I got my fair share as well. All right. With that being said, I think that is a good place to end off. Thank you so much, everyone who tuned in tonight. It was an absolute pleasure to talk with all of you. And now that the Blue Jays run is over, hopefully we can have a more consistent flow of having a bunch of people in here. So let's that's a great one, Mike. Soccer is a gentleman's game played by thugs, and rugby is a thug's game played by gentlemen. Yeah, I feel like rugby is that game where everyone, it's you get between them lines and then you go just beat each other up to a pulp, and then afterwards you shake hands, you're all right, good job, we'll do it again next week. Send Wool to play for the Marlies for conditioning and have Hildeby play against Boston. No, have someone play against Carolina. Boston has Pasternak, and I'm too scared of him. But yeah, Wool's going to be with the Marlies soon enough to condition and get back into game shape. That's pretty neat. I'm curious, did no one else tempt you in that time when the Leafs struggled or didn't have that novelty factor? I'm not going to lie. I was kind of just out of the hockey space for a bit in those dark days with the Leafs. Those 2014-15 days, I was just kind of a little more absent from hockey in general. So no, didn't have anyone trying to tempt me. And anytime someone would be oh, the Leafs suck, you whatever, I would just be yeah, well, more reason to cheer for them. So yeah, I'd play Hildeby against Carolina. Primo, I think, was an ex-Kane too. Might be know too much about him. I don't know. I'm kind of viewing that Carolina game as a scheduled loss, but maybe Toronto will surprise me. My dad's a huge rugby fan, and I was surprised he said that fighting in hockey was just too thuggish. What? How can you be a rugby fan and think that fighting in hockey is too thuggish? Oh, get out of here. whatever. Okay, that's where we're going to end off. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. It was a pleasure to hang out with all of you, and I can't wait to do it again on Saturday following Leafs Bruins. So make sure that you like this stream because we had a good time. Subscribe to Game Over Toronto and ring that notification bell so you don't miss any of our future shows, because these are an absolute blast to do with all of you guys. So until next time, my friends, have a good night. Cheers.